You ever get a text so emotionally manipulative it makes your phone overheat? Mine came at 11:03 a.m. on the Monday before Thanksgiving. Tiffany. Hey, Dad really wants to see you. Come home for the holiday? It won't be weird. Promise, yell heart turkey. It won't be weird. That's a red flag, right? That's what people say right before a trust fall or a colonoscopy. I stared at it, spoon halfway to my mouth, cereal soggy. I hadn't been home in 3 years. Not since the incident. Yes, capital I. Not since I packed my car with $17 in my checking account, 3 hoodies, and a single middle finger in the rearview mirror. And now suddenly, I was being summoned like Voldemort's long-lost Horcrux. To be clear, I'm not anti-Thanksgiving. I'm pro-potato. Pro-gravy. Neutral on turkey. What I'm against is sitting around a table with people who once told me I was too sensitive, after they forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. But Tiffany's message came with a second one, from my mom. Mom, your father misses you. He's mellowed out. I think you'd be surprised. Translation: he hasn't thrown a lawn chair in 6 months. Part of me wanted to ignore them. But the dumb emotional gremlin in my chest whispered, maybe this time will be different. So I said yes. Yes to the 6-hour drive. Yes to reheating trauma like mashed potatoes. Yes to pretending we're a sitcom family that just needs one heartfelt hug to solve everything. Spoiler, that didn't happen. But I packed anyway. I even bought a pie. A nice one, caramel apple crumble from a local bakery that charges $38 per dessert and hands it to you like it's a newborn child. Because apparently, despite everything, I still believed dessert could keep the peace. I pulled into my childhood driveway Wednesday afternoon. The house looked the same, fake reindeer already on the lawn, wreath on the door, political sign I pretended not to read. My brother Jake was the first to greet me. He opened the door, grinning like we hadn't stopped speaking after he told me I ran away because adulting was too hard. Hey man, he said, pulling me into a hug that felt like being tackled by a throw pillow. Long time. Yeah, I replied. 3 years and 200 therapy sessions. He laughed like I was joking. The inside of the house smelled like cinnamon and resentment. My old room? Gone. Now a home office, full of unopened Amazon boxes and a stationary bike that screamed midlife crisis. Mom hugged me tightly, teared up a little. You look good, she said. Not so thin anymore. Thanks, I replied. That's what happens when you stop crying through dinner. We all laughed, awkwardly. Even Dad gave me a grunt from the kitchen. He was basting the turkey, aggressively. The kind of basting that suggested unresolved anger and deep-seated disappointment. Good to see you, son, he said, not looking up. It was fine. Until it wasn't. But we'll get there. For now, I unpacked my bag, set the pie gently in the fridge, and told myself, one day. I can survive one day. I was wrong. You'd think leaving your childhood home would come with a bang. Doors slamming, tires screeching, someone shouting, "You'll regret this," while dramatic music plays. Mine? Less dramatic, more humiliating. I was 19, 3 months into a community college program I didn't want and still living at home, because rent was the kind of luxury you earned with trust funds or reality TV deals. I had a job, too, actually. Weekends at a bookstore, weekday evenings delivering sandwiches. I wasn't thriving, but I was trying. And then, one night, everything cracked over potato salad. Jake, my older brother by 2 years and 15 pounds of gym ego, had borrowed my debit card. Again. This time to buy concert tickets. For a girl he broke up with 2 days later. When I confronted him, he shrugged. Said, "You weren't using that money for anything important." Dad laughed. Said, "Boys figure things out." Then he turned to me, eyes full of disdain and Marlboro wisdom. "Maybe if you weren't always so uptight, people wouldn't treat you like a target." That was the moment. Not the theft. Not even the insult. It was the realization that my pain was an inconvenience. That in this house, being hurt just meant you were too soft. I packed the next morning. Quietly. No slam, no sobbing. Just folded shirts, a half-dead laptop, and a suitcase that still smelled like mildew and old hope. Mom stopped me at the door. "You're really doing this?" she asked, arms crossed, like I was choosing crime over breakfast. "I think I have to," I said. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask where I was going. She just said, "Well, if you leave, don't come crawling back when it gets hard." Spoiler, it got hard. But I never crawled. I couch-surfed. I worked more shifts. I learned how to live off ramen, dollar pizza, and spite. I missed rent twice, cried on a subway platform, and spent my 21st birthday eating vending machine trail mix in the back room of a restaurant kitchen because the manager didn't believe in scheduling fairness. And through all that, they didn't call. Not once. Thanksgiving that first year? Tiffany posted a photo of the family around the table. Jake wore my old hoodie. Dad was carving the turkey like a king. The caption read, "Grateful for what matters most, yellow heart #family first." What mattered most apparently didn't include me. I stayed gone. Not because I was trying to prove anything, but because once you realize your absence doesn't bother anyone, you start to believe your presence never mattered. By the time I turned 24, I had my own place. Small, mismatched furniture, too many plants, and a bedroom with a door I could close without someone shouting through it. Therapy helped. So did silence. Until last week, the text from Tiffany. The invitation back. And I said yes. Why? Because healing is a liar sometimes. It tells you you're ready. That enough time has passed for wounds to become funny stories. That maybe they've changed. And maybe I wanted them to miss me. Just a little. I drove 6 hours through holiday traffic, pulled into the driveway of a house that hadn't had my name on the mailbox in 5 years, and thought maybe this was a mistake. I was right. Thanksgiving morning came with the scent of cinnamon rolls and existential dread. Mom was already in the kitchen when I came down, humming aggressively to Christmas music in November like it was a coping mechanism. She looked up and smiled, flower on her cheek like a staged Hallmark movie. "Morning, sweetie. I let you sleep in." I glanced at the clock. It was 7:43 a.m. Sleep in where, prison? "Thanks," I said, grabbing a mug from the cabinet, the same one that once read, #OneSon. Until Jake broke it during an argument about fantasy football and no one replaced it. "Big day," she said, handing me a slice of undercooked cinnamon roll. "Your dad's really happy you're here." I nodded, chewing silently, wondering if she knew I'd heard her tell him to just be civil this time. Through the paper-thin walls last night. Dad walked in 15 minutes later in a polo shirt tucked aggressively into his jeans and the same cologne he wore the day he told me I was too soft for the real world. His eyes landed on me like I was a glitch in his reality. "Morning," he muttered. I gave him a nod. "Turkey still dead?" He smirked, like I was performing for his amusement. Jake arrived late, still yawning, wearing joggers and no socks like the kitchen was his birthright. He gave me a chin nod and immediately opened the fridge. "You bring any beer?" "Just generational trauma." Tiffany arrived last, arms full of casserole dishes and chaotic energy. She kissed Mom, ignored Jake's grunting, and hugged me like we were college roommates reuniting at an airport. "It's so good to see you," she chirped. "Seriously. You look stable." "Thanks," I said. I upgraded from ramen to frozen tortellini. "Love that for you." The rest of the day blurred. Football played in the background like white noise for dysfunction. Jake yelled at the screen, Dad pretended to know the score, and I offered to help in the kitchen just to avoid small talk. I took one look at the turkey and said, "It looks aggressive." Mom sighed. "Your father insisted on brining it this year." "Brining it in what, gasoline?" Tiffany laughed too hard. Dad didn't laugh at all. By 4 p.m., the dining room was set, mismatched chairs, linen napkins that hadn't seen a washer since Obama's first term, and a suspiciously small gravy boat. I sat at the far end, next to the broken radiator, across from Aunt Rhonda, who immediately launched into a monologue about her Pilates instructor and intermittent fasting. Everyone else acted like this was a reunion of equals, like I hadn't been airbrushed out of family photos for the past 3 years. Mom brought out the turkey with dramatic flair, and Dad stood to carve it like he was officiating a sacrifice. He cleared his throat, tapping his wine glass with the carving fork. "Before we eat," he said, "I just want to say something." I tensed. My fork hovered like a tuning rod for disaster. "We're all here," he said. "Well, almost all of us." He glanced at the empty seat where Uncle Doug used to sit before he moved to Florida to get some distance. "And I'm grateful," he continued. "Grateful for the ones who stayed. The ones who didn't give up on this family. The ones who didn't just walk out when things got tough." Tiffany's fork hit her plate with a small clink. Jake looked at his lap like there was something fascinating about gravy. Mom shifted in her seat, her smile now tight enough to cut glass. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't flinch. Dad lifted his glass, looked around the table, right past me, and said, "To my real kids. The ones who never left us behind." Silence. I didn't throw my fork. I didn't yell. I just stood up. Picked up my napkin. Folded it. Placed it on my plate. Then I walked out of the dining room, grabbed my coat from the hall, and opened the front door. "Where are you going?" Mom called, her voice cracking. "Home," I said. "Dinner's not even started." "Exactly." And then I left. No one followed me. Not even Tiffany. I got into my car, reversed out of that cracked driveway with the rust-stained basketball hoop and the broken porch light, and drove 6 hours back to the only home that ever made me feel safe, the one I'd built myself. I got back around 1 a.m., took off my coat, unpacked my things, and threw the pie, that $38 caramel apple masterpiece, straight into the trash. Because dessert doesn't fix everything. Especially not betrayal served warm with gravy on top. I woke up to 18 missed calls. That's not an exaggeration. 18. The first came in at 6:12 a.m. from Tiffany, which meant it must have hit her somewhere around her third mimosa that something was wrong. Then one from Mom at 6:15 a.m. Jake tried twice. Once at 6:25 and again at 6:26. Like he realized his first voicemail might have sounded too much like his usual "Bro, it's not that deep" tone. And then came Dad. 5 in a row. I didn't check the voicemails immediately. I stared at the screen like it might catch fire if I touched it. My apartment was still dark, blinds closed, silence thick. The kind of morning that normally starts with coffee and existential dread, not ding-ding-ding from the ghosts of emotional manipulation past. Finally, I opened the text from Mom. Just one line. "He didn't mean it." No punctuation. No. "Good morning." No. "I'm sorry." Just that. He didn't mean it. You'd think I'd laugh. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at that sentence like it was a riddle. Like maybe if I turned it over enough times in my head, it would stop being so profoundly stupid. He didn't mean it. Sure. Like he didn't mean it when he said I was always looking for a reason to be offended. Like he didn't mean it when he told me therapy makes people soft. Like he didn't mean it when he told a 19-year-old with a backpack full of debt and panic that if you leave, don't come back. But let's say, for fun, that he didn't mean it. Why say it at all? I finally played one of the voicemails. Tiffany's. "Hey, okay, so, last night. Yikes. I'm really sorry, I honestly thought this year would be chill. I didn't know he was gonna get all, emotionally constipated. Just call me? Please?" Beep. Then Jake. "Bro, it was a joke. You know how Dad is. You shouldn't have left. You made it a bigger thing than it needed to be. Can you just not ghost the family again?" Beep. Then Dad. His voice was low, gruff, unapologetic. "I raised you better than that. Walking out on family over one comment? Grow up." Beep. Second voicemail from him. "You think the world's going to cater to your feelings? This is why we were worried about you. You twist everything into a crisis." Beep. By voicemail 3, he was full-on offended. "You embarrassed your mother. You embarrass me. You think you're above us now? Just because you pay your own bills and live in some shoebox in the city? Beep. Message 4? You should be grateful we even invited you back. That's more than you deserved after what you pulled when you left. Beep. That one did it. I put my phone down, got up, and made coffee. Not the instant kind I lived on during my early couch surfing days. The good kind. French press, oat milk, cinnamon sprinkle. Petty luxury coffee. The kind that says, I'm not rich but I'm healing. Then I opened my laptop, checked my calendar, and blocked off the next 3 days under a label I'd never used before. Emotional Recovery PTO. Because apparently, Thanksgiving had become a full-contact sport. The voicemails kept coming. Even Aunt Rhonda chimed in with a text. We've always loved you. Don't punish your parents for being imperfect. Punish? Is that what we call it now? Setting boundaries? I didn't respond. Instead, I turned on music, cleaned my kitchen, took a walk. And when I got back, I finally wrote my response. Not to everyone. Just to Mom. He meant it. He's always meant it. And the fact that your first instinct is to excuse it, again, instead of acknowledge it? That says more than his toast ever could. I'm not angry. I'm just done. You didn't lose a son last night. You lost your illusion that I'd keep coming back for more. Then I hit send. Not to punish, but to protect. Because this time, I wasn't going to explain my hurt so they could rewrite it as overreaction. I wasn't going to play their game of healing, but on their terms. I was going to stand still and let them notice the space I left behind. I wonder if they think I lived in a movie montage. You know, inspirational music, quick shots of me struggling but smiling, learning to cook, taking community college classes by night, decorating my first apartment with fairy lights and dreams. Probably ends with a shot of me in a press shirt, sipping coffee, ready to forgive and forget. They don't know. Because they never asked? They don't know that my first apartment was a basement room with water stains on the ceiling and a radiator that hissed like a snake with asthma. They don't know about the night my car got towed while I was working a double, and I had to walk 6 miles home in the snow, in sneakers, with the takeout bag strapped to my chest so it wouldn't freeze. They don't know that I once skipped dinner for 3 days so I could afford a textbook for a class I eventually had to drop because I kept falling asleep during lectures. They don't know about the panic attacks in bathroom stalls. Or the job where my manager made fun of my city anxiety. Or the month I had to choose between electricity and my phone bill. They weren't there for the wins either. The little ones. Like the first time I bought a real mattress. Not off Craigslist. New. The smell of it. The way it didn't creak when I sat down. The night I slept on it, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because my back wasn't on the floor for once. Or the first time I got approved for a credit card. Or when I could finally afford to tip 20% and not do the math 4 times first. Or when a coworker casually said, "You've got good instincts." And I had to excuse myself so I wouldn't cry in front of the printer. Those moments built me. They didn't come from lectures or tough love or hollow toasts. They came from failing and getting back up. From friends who became family. From strangers who showed more grace than the people who raised me. From me. But they don't see that version of me. They never did. To them, I'm frozen in time, the dramatic one, the emotional liability. The son who abandoned his family because he couldn't handle a few harsh truths. And here's the kicker, I believed them. For a long time, I believed I was weak. That leaving made me selfish. That boundaries were a form of betrayal. But you know what's selfish? Asking someone to come back into a fire you lit, then blaming them for the burns. I used to think healing would come with an apology. That someday, Dad would say, "I was wrong," and it would feel like a door unlocking. Now I know better. Apologies are nice. But distance? That's sacred. And peace? Peace is not having to flinch every time your phone buzzes. It's walking into your own kitchen and not worrying who you'll disappoint. It's eating dinner, alone, and not wondering if the silence means you don't belong. They think I walked away because I'm angry. I stayed away because I got tired. Tired of twisting myself into a version of family that only worked if I erased my pain. Tired of maybe next year. Tired of second chances that felt more like second traps. So when Dad raised his glass and said, "To my real kids," it didn't break me. It confirmed something I'd known all along. That I was never really at that table to begin with. And the moment I stood up, that was me pushing my chair in for the last time. The first knock came Sunday morning. 2 soft taps, like someone pretending they weren't invading your peace if they just did it politely enough. I peeked through the peephole. It was Tiffany. Sweater dress, hair curled, holding a Starbucks cup like a peace treaty. I didn't open the door. Not immediately. She knocked again, this time louder. The kind of knock that says, "I know you're in there, don't make this weird." I cracked it open just enough to see her expression. "Oh, thank God," she exhaled. "You're alive." "Unfortunately," I said. "I was hoping to be pronounced legally unbothered by now." She winced. "Look, I get it. Dad was harsh. Harsher than a dry turkey and unresolved childhood trauma. I just think," she said, "you overreacted a little." I stared at her. "You know what's wild?" I said. "No one ever says that to him." She started to reply, stopped, then sighed into her latte like it had all the answers. "Can I come in?" "Nope." There was a long pause. Then, "Okay. I deserve that." She turned to leave, but stopped halfway down the hall. "He's not going to apologize, you know." I leaned against the doorframe. "I know. He doesn't think he did anything wrong." "Because he didn't," I said. "In his mind, I'm the one who left. I'm the wound, not the scar." She nodded slowly. "I don't want us to lose you." "You didn't lose me," I said. "You just never looked for me when I was gone." She blinked like I'd slapped her, then left without another word. That afternoon, Mom called again. I didn't answer. Then she emailed me. An actual email. Like it was 2007 and we were trading recipe chains. Subject: "Let's talk. Sweetheart, I know things got heated. Your father is under a lot of pressure. He's not great with words, you know that. But we love you. Come over this week? I'll make your favorite roast chicken with that garlic butter you used to help me with. Remember that?" I stared at the screen. Then I hit reply. "I remember. I also remember when I burned my hand on the pan and you told me to toughen up because Jake was having a bad day. Dinner won't fix this. You say he's not great with words, but that's not true. He's very clear. Cruel, but clear. And every time he weaponizes his mouth, you hand him a shield made of excuses. If you really want to fix this, start with silence. Let it sting. Sit with it. Understand that I left the table because it was the only way to stop bleeding. I don't need dinner. I need distance." I didn't sign it. Love. That night, I turned my phone off. Lit a candle that smelled like vanilla and firm boundaries. Made myself ramen, not because I was broke, but because it reminded me I survived. I ate on the couch, under a blanket, with no one shouting across the table or dropping barbed comments between bites. And I realized peace isn't always pretty. Sometimes, peace is ramen and silence. Sometimes it's saying no and meaning it. Sometimes it's not picking up the phone when the only thing on the other end is guilt and a voice you once trusted. And sometimes, peace is the lock on your door, and the choice not to open it. It started with silence. Not mine, theirs. After I sent that final email to Mom, I expected the usual pattern. Dad would rage, Jake would call twice pretending it was no big deal, and Tiffany would send a string of emoji-laced texts like a Hallmark producer with a coping mechanism. But this time? Nothing. 3 days passed. Then 4. No calls. No texts. No sad selfies or passive-aggressive Instagram quotes about growth and forgiveness. Just digital silence. Like they'd all collectively agreed I didn't exist. At first, it felt like peace. But then I realized it wasn't surrender. It was strategy. They weren't reflecting. They were waiting. waiting for me to doubt myself, to flinch, to reach out and say the one thing they'd always relied on me to say. Okay, maybe I overreacted. But this time I didn't. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I was being unfair. I felt like I'd finally said something true. And the more they stayed silent, the more I realized what they were really mourning, not the loss of me, but the loss of access to me. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that took care of everything, made jokes to soften the tension, helped clean the kitchen after dinner even when I was the one getting roasted at the table. They missed the one who'd drop everything to help Jake move a couch or co-sign on Tiffany's business loan. That was actually just a $2,000 lash extension bender. They missed their doormat, not their son. So when the letter arrived that Saturday morning, handwritten address, thick cream paper, the kind that screams I'm emotionally repressed but expensive, I already knew who it was from. Dad. Inside, one typed page. No greeting. No. Dear son. Just straight into it. I'm not sure what you expect from me. I invited you back. I let the past go. You made a scene. Your mother was embarrassed. You upset your sister. That toast wasn't about you. It was about family. If you can't handle that, maybe it's better you stay gone. It was signed R. Walker. Not Dad. Not even Richard. Just initials. As if he was closing a business email, not severing blood ties. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, slid it into the junk drawer with expired batteries and a stress ball shaped like a tomato. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just laughed, the kind of laugh that tastes like metal in your mouth. The kind that says, of course this is how it ends. That night, I hosted my own dinner. Not as a replacement Thanksgiving, but as a reclamation. Joe came first, arms full of homemade rosemary rolls and sarcasm. Then Marcus and Casey, carrying pie and cheap wine and a Bluetooth speaker named Gary, because apparently it only responds to deep male voices. We toasted with mismatched glasses. Ate like the food would disappear. Laughed until we choked. And somewhere between garlic mashed potatoes and a group debate over whether Die Hard is a holiday movie, it is, I felt it. Something crack open. Not pain. Not regret. Something quieter. Relief. I didn't need them anymore. Not because I had replaced them, but because I had released them. They could keep their table, their traditions, their story where I was the villain for walking away. I had my own. After everyone left, I stood at the sink, washing dishes by hand, because my apartment doesn't have a dishwasher and honestly, that's the only thing I missed about the old house. Bruno curled up in the corner. A Miles Davis record played low from the Bluetooth speaker, now suddenly responsive to my voice. And I smiled. Because it was over. Not the story. The loop. The one where I kept coming back to be rejected again. This time? I stayed gone. And for once, it didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. The next message came a week later. From Mom. A voice memo this time, because apparently, a text just wasn't emotionally manipulative enough. Hi, honey. I don't know what to say anymore. Your father's struggling. He won't admit it, but he misses you. He didn't mean it the way it sounded. You know how he gets after a few glasses. Maybe it came out wrong, but you walking out, it broke something. Can't we just move on? That last line stuck with me. Can't we just move on? It echoed in my head while I folded laundry, fed Bruno, took out the trash. Can't we just move on? Like it was a traffic ticket. Like I'd overreacted to someone casually erasing me in public. Like forgiveness was a default setting that I'd forgotten to enable. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because they were asking the wrong question. The question wasn't, can't we move on? It was, why do you still think you get to decide when I've had enough? A few days later, I saw the photo. Tiffany had posted it on Instagram. The family around the table, Christmas this time. Matching pajamas. One empty chair off to the side. Caption. Together is everything Red Heart. No tag. No mention. But the chair was enough. I zoomed in. Same table. Same dining room. Different lighting. Same silence where my name should have been. And I didn't feel sad. I felt free. Because that empty chair wasn't my absence. It was their consequence. I ended up writing a letter. Not to send. Just to say it, the words I'd been holding for years like hot coals I wasn't allowed to drop. It said, I didn't leave because I hated you. I left because I started liking myself. I didn't walk away to punish you. I walked away to find out who I was when I wasn't being constantly reminded of who I'd disappointed. You told me blood was thicker than water, but forgot that blood can stain just as easily. So no. I'm not coming back. I'm not explaining my pain in a way that makes you comfortable. I'm not shrinking so you can stretch your arms and pretend they were open all along. This time, the door is closed. This time, I locked it for good. Last weekend, Joe and I hosted a dinner. Not a holiday. Just dinner. Friends came. We made chili, Grandpa's recipe. Watched trash TV. Played cards until 2 a.m. Bruno barked once when someone dropped a tortilla chip, then fell asleep under the table. There were no toasts. No forced gratefuls. No digs disguised as jokes. Just laughter. Warmth. Peace. And as I stood on the balcony afterward, city lights blinking like lazy stars, I thought about all the ways I'd tried to earn love that was supposed to be free. And all the years I spent thinking maybe next time. But there's no next time now. Just this time. This place. This life. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting to be invited back in. Because I finally understood. I was never supposed to stay at that table. I was meant to build my own.